Hello and welcome to Masquerade Breach Season 3, Episode 6. I'm Blazewing.
I'm Captain Cosplays, otherwise known as Krisha.
Miley.
We sort of
Yes.
got it.
No, I totally heard it. I heard it. And I'm Oceanus Veritas, also known as Cam.
Guys, we are getting into Dracula Untold today. So, let's talk about it.
Alrighty, bitches, this is my time to shine. This was literally I had a hyperfixation with this movie for years. I loved this film. I think I've watched it beginning to end like 500 times. When you were like, "Oh, do you want to maybe set up a time that we watch it?" I was like, "Oh no. Don't worry. I've seen it.
That explains why you didn't come watch it with us.
I can close my eyes and replay it in my fucking brain. That is how many times I've seen this movie. Genuinely love it. The problem with this film is though, it did not have the support it needed. I think it needed like a good couple more $1 million in budget. There were a lot of deleted scenes that would have been very cool to watch. Like there's literally right after he's turned, he kills a witch and he has like a fight with a witch. And that's cool. His fight scene with the other prince is extended a while. But yeah, and then also we have to talk about the movie The Mummy that Tom Cruise was in. So Universal, they were going to do like Monsters Universe. Do you guys remember that?
Ish, yes.
Yeah, because The Mummy flopped so badly, they canceled the entire project. Like this Dracula was supposed to have like a whole set of movies, and then all of them were supposed to fight evil together. But Tom Cruise had to be such a little dick and ruined The Mummy that it just fucking flopped so badly. So yeah, I fucking love this movie. I think it's incredible. There are so many tiny little details. They had such a great cast. I loved it.
Marley.
Okay, so this movie is so good, I actually own it because I do like to do the same thing and I can watch it on repeat. I also will never tire of this movie. It has so many things that really just make my heart go and flutter, but also like ring. And like the cool stuff I wish I could do when I'm mad at people, just turn into a bunch of bats and be like, F you, and just not be there anymore. I don't think I could keep my job if I did that, but how much fun would it be if you're just sitting at your desk and suddenly, poof, I'm bats, just to get out of an awkward conversation? Like, it would be awesome. But yes, this movie has so many things that I love, dearly, dearly love. And knowing the story of like Bram Stoker's Dracula, just being like, okay, this was my first introduction to Dracula. Then you see Dracula Untold and you're like, I love it because they give you the twist that you feel like you need. Specifically, okay, in Dracula, they're like, hey, war, rar. Here, they're like, reason for war, be mad with them. And you're like, okay, I am now mad with them. And I understand it. But like, they're not the same story, but it helps the mind to be like, I like that twist. I like how they took the thing that you're supposed to feel and then give you things to help you feel it. And you're like, I am personally involved in this movie. I would also like to beat people up and turn into bats. Yes. but then they also have the true love aspect, and it was true love, and it was happy until it was death, and then it got to be happy again. I love it.
Ocean?
This movie had a lot for it, and I liked it because it gave a reason why. It gave a reason why Dracula was at war. It gave an understanding of the Turk War, especially with the Ottoman Empire, which is based out of the real life, and kind of goes into why they went to war and everything. The idea behind this movie is grounded not only in historical fact but also historical myth and legend, which I think the amalgamation of both and the juxtaposition of both have melded very well with this movie. If you're baking a cake, this was amazing an amazing Black Forest cake. It was a very, very good cake. I'll eat it again. 10 out of 10 recommend.
I can't watch this movie and not find comfort in it. There are parts of it that are extremely predictable, but I find safety in that. There are parts of it that are absolutely brutal, but then again, you've got the love, you've got the action, you've got the monster trying to, find the best way forward. You've got a self-made fucking monster. Every aspect of this movie it's got something for me. The pacing was good. I find the atmosphere actually pretty damn fucking decent for the way they shot it. I think they nailed the atmosphere with this movie. They painted Vlad as a loving family man. I mean, it's not bad for a fictional movie based on a historical person. Not accurate or realistic in the slightest. But the way they painted Vlad in this movie was absolutely gorgeous. And then there's a line near the end of the movie when he's fighting the Turkish prince. He turns into he's like down on the silver, stake almost to his heart. He turns into he looks over to his son, sees his son. He's like, "This is why I'm fucking fighting. This is my whole reason for being here." One last ditch effort, turns into a flock of bats, flies out around the Turkish prince, stabs him, and he's like, "That's no longer my name. I'm Dracula, son of the devil." I'm just like, dude. And I'm sorry, but Lucian the monk, he's just trying his best, man. Like, he's just trying to do what he thought was the right fucking thing. And I mean, he came through in the end, but damn if he didn't get it wrong the entire fucking movie. There was a point where Vlad lost his temper. Like, his kingdom is starting to come after him. Like, they know what he's done. They know what he is, what he's become. And, like, they try and torch him. And he's like, "This is the thanks that you give? I literally put my own humanity on the line for this kingdom and my son. And this is how you repay me."
Yeah.
In the end, ended up sacrificing his entire kingdom for his son. Ends up living forever, but that's, another story. That's for another point. Giving kind of the idea that his son was everything to him. I don't know. Anyone else?
There was something about that actually kind of drove home to me that in order for him to win this war, for him to actually have a chance at winning this war, he had to become the monster.
Mm-hmm.
That is an age-old tale,
Mm-hmm.
an age-old adage, I guess, if you will, that a hero, and he says it earlier on in the movie, sometimes the world doesn't need a hero. Sometimes what the world needs is a monster. And the idea behind that is that he knows he's becoming the monster. He knows that he's going to drag up a portion of his past that he wanted to bury away, but knew that this new threat was going to have him go back to exactly that again, which I guess in a way makes what he does, whether no matter how noble the cause, the idea is that a hero will always be a hero in that sense. But his idea, it also goes along the lines of, you know, I'm not a hero. I am the villain in this story. And the idea behind a hero will sacrifice the one to save the many. And in this case, it was very, very clear that he was like, I will burn the world for my family, for my people. And I think that was well illustrated in this movie.
Every time I watch this movie, I want a sequel. They left it open so much at the end, and I know that's what they were setting up, and they never like, we never got it. But I want a sequel so bad. I want to see what this version of Dracula can do in present fucking day. I want to see what he's capable of, how he handles himself in a modern day setting.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
they did set that up. They set that up right at the end, just like you're saying, where like let the games begin. Yeah, I wanted to see it too because I'm like, what games? I want games. Give me games.
And the sad part is we're never going to get it now.
Yeah. There's not enough time for the budget.
Well,
now, I wouldn't say never because there's always been someone who may pick it up.
What you were saying, Krisha, it's like they were trying to revive the age-old like Monster Wars. They were trying to put a new life and a new spin on that. And honestly, go for it. You have an entire cult following that will be like, shut up and take my money.
Yeah.
Like, people that have grown up on this shit, people that watch the old classics, people that haven't seen it, give it a new lease on life, show an entirely new generation the classic monster movies with a modern twist.
The actors had such good chemistry.
I agree.
Marina and Dracula, like, they were so good together.
Yeah.
Like, it was so genuinely loving.
Yep. You could see it.
And like,
Yeah.
there were, and the only moments, and they made it so well that literally the only moment that Vlad showed any sort of vulnerability was when he was alone with her. Any other time, even in front of his son, he was like the stoic prince dad, didn't put his guard down, like, ever. But when he was just with her, those moments, he was so just like so vulnerable, and it was so raw. And it's so delicious. This is why this movie is one of my favorites, because like, we always see in the Dracula movies like the flashback of him murdering thousands for his people, and then wife's dead, but we never actually see that connection between the two of them, and this was a great setup to that.
We got the emotion from it.
And then also the fact that Dracula has a living bloodline, because his son lived on and became the next prince. That could have been played with, but I think the truly monstrous master vampire in Broken Tooth Cave, that actor and that being, I love him so much. Oh my god. I think he was Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones. But that actor, I love him to death. Oh my god.
Circling back around the vulnerability, she knew something was going on like right away. Marina knew something was going on right away. She asked, and he's like, this is what I did. Rips open the curtain, like, just starts melting to pieces, starts dissolving to pieces in front of her. And she's like, stop it. And then later on in the movie, there's a point where he loses his temper. She steps in. So she's in his line of sight specifically. And you could see it in his face. The entire world fades away. And it's literally just her. And she's like, this isn't who you are. And he's like, oh, fuck. You're right. Like, you can just see that on his face. That was gorgeous. I absolutely loved that.
Yeah, the way that she stood by him and stood up for him
Yep.
repeatedly. That depth of emotion, they were both equally devoted to their son. They were also equally devoted to each other.
Yep.
And that just shows on repeat. My favorite part is after he tries to negotiate the first time and gets turned down, and they're like, you need to surrender your son. And she's freaking out, and he's just like, you can see it's killing him to not help her through this. But he had to show his strength. And the way that he just walks his son over, his son is just brave as could be. He just wants to make his family proud. He's willing to endure anything, and you can see it. You can feel it in the scene where he's just like, no, I will go. And then they get up close, and the dad's just like, run back to your mother. Like, that is my favorite scene, because that right there shows the devotion and the truth of how they all felt about each other, but it also shows how great those characters and those actors were with each other, because you can feel it. Like, it felt real. And you can see how he's willing to take down anybody to save his child and to fulfill his promise to his wife. Because that's the other thing that, we haven't brought up yet, is that was a promise to his wife, that this would not happen to her child, that it ends with him, and he wasn't going to bring all that into their lives. He loved her enough to make a promise for that, and then he did everything he could, even becoming a monster, to protect that promise and that love. I think it was truly beautiful. I just need a mafia man to act like that.
Anything from you, Ocean?
So, one of the things that I found visceral was we see scenes where he's taking a bath and you can see the scarring of the whip marks and everything. And one of the things that I see when he's suffering, because he is suffering, you can tell he's suffering. When his wife ends up going, your scars, they're gone. You can tell that what is actually happening is the internalization of those scars rather than the oh, they're just gone, they're just healed. No, they're internalizing into his soul. And I think that's one of the things that really connects with me, is that resonance between the pain and suffering that one may externalize versus what may be internalized. And in this case, the transference of internalizing those scars onto his soul rather than having them on his back or on his skin, it shows just how much this man and monster is suffering. And you learn more and more of how that affects his decision making and how he views the world itself. It is quite insane to watch and intriguing, because it's taking a the mental understanding or the mental anguish that one goes through, that the suffering will no longer be physical. It will always be mental and emotional at that point.
If I had to pick one or two phrases to sum up this movie, the first would be, you gotta do what you gotta do. And the second, I think, would very much be, your greatest strength can also be your greatest weakness, and people aren't necessarily going to understand that. So, sometimes you got to embrace the inner monster to get shit done. It's the only way you're going to be able to deal with it. Yeah.
Modern times call for desperate situations call for modern solutions.
I just always think of the moment where it's like, I'm gonna end this war in 3 days. Oh, why don't you do it in 2 days? Really impress us. Like,
Best line in the entire fucking movie.
that's also like another thing. The blonde guy is one of his childhood friends. And what makes the whole situation so terrible is that basically how the other prince was like, your son is going to be at my side, because growing up, Vlad was by the side of the other prince's father, and they grew up as brothers side by side. So like they were all friends growing up, and then power twisted people into other monsters. It's like there is such a depth to this film. Everything has purpose. Nothing is by accident. Every little detail has purpose.
You said the blonde guy, his childhood friend, the guy who basically you were talking about the guy that died, right? The guy that he was like begging.
The guy who died literally protecting Marina and the son.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but as soon as he died, I knew Drac wasn't going to survive this.
And also, sorry, Ocean, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things about that is it kind of goes through that whole idea of Mercutio in Romeo and Juliet. The idea behind that man was the stable, the foundation of the warrior side of Drac. It gives to a level unlike I've ever seen. That it kind of it pulls from a direct aspect of Mercutio when Romeo is like, I want to go to this person. It's the very same concept with Dracula, and that I want to do this thing. And you can see where the foundation of Dracula starts to crumble. And I think that's one of the big things, is that had he survived, he would have probably been able to speak more reasonably with Dracula than if with any of the other of his comrades.
The only other one that would have possibly been able to pull that off was his wife.
I was going to say that's actually something that if you watch a lot of the monster movies, there is always a love interest. There is, and what they do in like this one is they have the wife, but they also have love for family. So that's where the son is. But they also have love for your brother, which is your best friend. And those are the things that are tested in these movies that either make or break the characters. And sometimes they break them to remake them. But if they lose the majority of those three, then that's usually the time that it happens. They break. And that's what happened here. It wasn't his choice to come back. He was brought back. His choice was to go on after he saved his son, because he had already lost two of the three, and he saved the last one. And that was the last that he could do. He chose to keep going after he was revived, but he did not choose to revive himself.
I also like the detail that if it hadn't have been his wife begging him to like drink her blood at that moment after she fell off the tower, if it hadn't have been her, if it had been anyone else, he would have said no.
Yeah.
And everything would have been lost. He would have lost everyone.
One of the things about this movie also, it's not only heartbreaking to watch that part because you see him losing his humanity through losing his wife.
Yep.
But at the same time, the only thing grounding him in reason at that point is his son.
Which he gave up willingly because he understood what was at stake, and he always came back to it. Like, this is the reason I'm here. You see it time and time again. This is the whole fucking point. Yep. He sacrificed his entire kingdom for his son. Literally sent his son away when they were trying to go after him and burned them all to the ground.
One of the other things about that, because that's also an interesting take, after, unaliving the other prince and coming out, then it was the resurrected portions of his own kingdom coming in saying, now you need to get rid of him. And he chose his son again over his own kingdom. And he proved it by taking one of his best friends.
Yep.
and staking him.
You seem to have forgotten who I am. Cements the pole in the ground, and literally just watches him dissolve. Lucian at the end, I think, understood exactly what Vlad was doing, what his entire purpose was. I think that he saw underneath the monster that was made. I think he saw the light. I think he saw the good that he was trying to do there. I really do. And I think that's why he didn't go after Vlad as well.
I think that's like, that was that moment of understanding where it's like, he belongs with the land of the living.
Yep.
He has to come with me. Like, you've done, like, because before he was like, please let me kill you. Please let me put you at peace. And it's similar, like, give him to me so now you can be at peace. You've done your job. That was the message I was getting. Like, he belongs with the land of the living. Now you can finally have peace. Like, and that, yeah.
I could sit here for hours and talk about this movie. Like, this movie, as much as it wasn't overly realistic, it got the atmosphere and the energy right. And there's just something about it. Like, it tugs. It will always hold a spot for me, I think. So, on that note, let's start with most hated scene. Marley?
That's not an easy one.
Not for this movie, it's not.
Thinking carefully. Okay, it's not a most hated, but it's something that I would have liked to have seen, was execution of other power. There was an obvious favoritism in powers. I would have liked to see at least a couple more, like, in the very beginning when he turns into the bats and he's like, oh, that's cool, and he has the hearing, and I would like to see just a couple more, like, thrown in that'd be like, oh, that was neat. Like, I'd like to see him teleport into a tree on accident, not just be bats, but be like, oh shit, like, something that would have, like, gotten me, because, like, a lot of them, they can turn into the lots of little animals, but then they also have, like, one animal. Can he do the giant bat thing? Like, that would have been cool. Can the little bats turn into a bat? Can he change his shape at all? Or is he just the bat? Like, does he have, like, we know he has the extra strength, but and he has the sight and the hearing, but does he have anything else? Like, does he just jump really far, or can he actually levitate? Like, these were things I kind of thought about, like, while I was watching it, just based on the older monster movies, being like, I don't know, what is he actually, like, afraid of? Because he's not really afraid of the things that the others were afraid of. He had reactions to silver, he had reactions to light, but he didn't have any actual, like, the fear factor in there, where other than losing his family, which is a big fear, he didn't have a tangible vampire fear. And that was something, like, I might have just missed it or misplaced what I thought it was, but other than the thought of losing his family and the general reactions to things, I didn't see any real, like, fear of stuff. So, like, it's not that I have a hated scene or anything. I thought it'd be kind of cool if they played around with a bit more.
It's freaking bats!
It's freaking bad.
Krisha.
I just wish there was more. I wish I would have watched this if this was a 2-hour movie.
I'd have watched this
Or a
if it was
3
a 4.
or a 2.5.
I'd have watched this
Like,
if it was 4.
because the pacing was good. That movie went so fucking fast. So obviously they knew what to fucking pace. Oh my god, I would have watched another hour of this movie if they had put it in, and they needed it. I just wanted, like, literally my least favorite part of this movie was I want more. Like, they set up that end so perfectly. Like, the master vampire has been sitting there for 600 years waiting for Vlad to finally get something for him to exploit. And then he was like, my time to shine. Let the games begin. With the whole set of acrylics, just like, let the games begin. Like, literally, I want more. That is my complaint.
Let the games begin. Games are over, sorry. Ocean?
So there's one. It's not really a scene that is really big. It's actually one of the more minor scenes, and I was not a fan of the Igor that they had. I was not a fan of how that guy came out of nowhere and seemed to just creep
Oh,
and just be creepy.
did you not see him? He was the one that found the helmet in the beginning.
Yeah, I did see that, but again, creepy factor. I left it there.
No.
I didn't touch it.
So
He's just a creepy person.
that assistant, for lack of a better word, that, like, henchman, has always been stereotypically creepy. Look at fucking Renfield.
But it wasn't Renfield. That's
No, I
where
get
I'm
that.
getting at.
But even with Frankenstein,
I get that. But the idea behind it is that the way this particular assistant, which they didn't give a name to, it wasn't Renfield. We knew that because Renfield comes later. The thought process of this, I just want to serve you in a very obsessive way, which I get is very Renfield, but it wasn't Renfield. So where did this assistant go when Renfield came up? Because this is clearly not Renfield. And so the idea, the build up to this character, while yes, very creepy and everything, it wasn't, he didn't hit, in my opinion.
even in the original Dracula lore, there was no mention of Renfield being of, like, any of Dracula's henchmen being immortal.
Right.
There was no mention of expanded lifespan or anything like that.
Well, and that's the thing. I think that it does say that with Renfield specifically. And the reason why I say Renfield was the more immortal, because looking at all iterations of Renfield had a longevity of life that was above and beyond the normal mortal. So that's why I'm going that behind there. It's like, where was he when Renfield was brought in?
Fair.
At that point. So the idea behind it is, it seems weird to me that this character, this new character, is being brought in to feed him and be his assistant. Just seems kind of slightly out of place. I'm not saying it's entirely out of place. I'm just saying it's slightly out of place, like, because we were understanding that he had brides before Renfield, and then Renfield came in and he became the assistant, which I thought was a brilliant idea or culmination, that he was still building on his quote unquote empire and rule and manor and everything. So the idea of having this guy in there, well, what happened to him?
Fair.
So that's why it's my least liked scene, but it's pivotal to continue the story.
As for me, I don't have a hated scene for this movie. I really don't. And I tried to look for one. I don't have one. My hated part? Give me my goddamn sequel! I need more. Sorry. That's it. Just give me my goddamn sequel. Alright, let's start with most loved scene. Or let's go with most loved scene. Marley?
You already know mine. Mine was when he went to give up his son and then killed all the guys. Because he had to keep his promise.
Marley just here for the complete decimation of an entire population. I love it.
Marley is all about cannibalism and mass genocide when it comes to movies and books.
Krisha?
You just look innocent.
Fair. Krisha?
Marina's death. And then Marina's death, and then between the master vampire and Vlad. Marina, like, when she falls, her face isn't like, is just in horror of what, like, is gonna happen. She knows exactly what's about to happen, and she's looking at her husband, the love of her life, monstrous, and he is just there, just close enough, and can't reach. It's like he almost made it, and didn't. And then the fact that, like, her back is broken, her legs broken, she knows she's gonna die, and like her last ever desire is to and the last thing she sees is her love become a complete monster. That's the last thing she sees, the last thing she hears, the last thing she feels. That is like, and then the immortal game. Okay, that one guy plays villains way too well, cuz he's just like, "Oh, but this is not a game. Oh, but isn't this the best of games?" And immortal, like, just, it's so juicy. Oh my god. Just so well, just effortless. It's like, stop lying to me. What did you feel? Like, oh, it's so juicy.
Ocean.
So I'm gonna have to go with absolutely the heartbreak scene of where Marina is dying, and the promise that Vlad made, saying that I will not let you out, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. And it took, again, Marlene, Marlene, Marina, Marina, sorry, Marina's, in a way, to have him rescind on his promise that he would not do this. And that being the most pivotal, most heartbreaking, most visceral scene in the movie, you could tell this was a build up to it. On top of it, I will point out that the one that Krisha had just mentioned about the master vampire, the idea, I don't see him playing it as we call him the villain, but really it was a it was a challenge to understand where Vlad was coming from on this, where Dracula was on why he's doing this, and the whole thought behind it of, you know, the movie, and why he's going to war and why the monster needed to come out type aspect. So the line of question that the master vampire was doing, in my personal opinion, was not in a way to disturb, but as a way to solidify and justify why he was there to need it, and to make no illusions about why he was doing it. And I, again, like, the thought was like, did you kill hundreds? Yes. Slams, you lie to me again, I'm gonna cut you open, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. Was merely to prove the the gravity of the situation, not just that he was threatening him just to threaten because you don't lie to your master or anything. It was the, you you could lie to me all you want, is essentially what he said, but you can never lie to yourself. And that's the point he was making. And I think that illustrated real well with why. And it made him face things that he didn't want to face.
For me, I have a few different moments in this movie. Like most of you, Marina's death hit me pretty hard. That was an exceedingly well done sequence. She's looking up at her husband and she sees just like an absolute beast of a man, like an absolute monster. But if you look at her face, it's nothing but love. It's nothing but compassion. She knows exactly who he is. She doesn't doubt that for even a moment, even though she knows she's going to die. And then after that, her thought is for her son. Take my last breath and go get your fucking son. Like, without hesitation. I did enjoy the scene between the Master Vampire and Vlad in the cave. My absolute favorite scene, however, is a little closer to the beginning. When he comes out of the cave after the deal with the Master Vampire, and he looks up at the sky, and you watch the clouds part, and you see the entirety of the heavens laid before him. I'm a sucker for universe shots like that, like for galactic shots like that, just for like the entire starscape. One of the most beautiful things I can ever comprehend, like I can ever imagine. One second. The other thing that I really enjoyed was the vampire in the cave was like, this is going to cost you, right? Vlad's like, I don't give two shits. He's like, this is going to test you, right? Vlad's like, I don't give two shits. I have something I have to do. I need to have it done. And then we see him testing out his powers. Seduction of the powers. Like, here's what you can do. This is everything that I have given you. And then he gets into a fight. And suddenly there's the heartbeat. And then he goes to make love to his wife. Oh shit, I can't do that. There's that fucking heartbeat again. And then somebody lays their hand on his wife. And he like rends them completely. His entire kingdom turns against him. And you watch that anger burst forth. Like, this is what I've made you. This is what you are now. But you have to resist it. Because if you give in, you're done. And then the last moment when his wife is like, take my last breath, he can't. The entire movie was a test. point to point to point. He just didn't realize, and I don't think the audience would have realized just how deep that was going to go until she died. Her death was his last test. If he had passed that, because the sun was right there, it was like right fucking there. If he had passed that, he would have been fine. But it took everything from him, and in the end, it even took his son, because his son no longer, his son, as far as he's concerned, is like he's dead as far as his son's concerned. That was absolutely gorgeous. That was beautifully done, I think.
One of the interesting thoughts behind that as well wasn't it that the master vampire laid out what this future was going to be? Laid it out bare and just was like, this is what you're going to lose. You don't realize it right now, but you're going to lose it this way. And he was like, I won't let that happen. I'll disappoint you, Bella. And he didn't. It didn't. It went exactly how how the master vampire expected it to go.
So I think it's time we turned our focus to our ratings. 1 to 5. Where do you think it stands? Let's hear your rating and your final thoughts, Marley.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 5 is a 10. I love the movie. I didn't have any major icks or weird things where I was like, oh no, please no. This was not From Dusk Till Dawn. This was a lot better, and it had freaking bats, and we loved the bats, and the love story got to continue, and his son got to live, and it was trauma with a happy ever after, just like every book I read and every movie I watch. Yeah.
Krisha.
It's a 6 out of 5 for me. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. Literally, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. This movie has inspired so much of my writing. So much of my creativity is inspired from this film. I literally messaged earlier, like the first battle that you were talking about, where he's literally practically in a t-shirt and jeans.
Yep.
And he's just like, okay, bye, and just kills 1,000 people. And then all of his friends show up, and he's just like, don't ask. And they're like, okay. Like, he's scared of himself, and he doesn't want to explain, and they're terrified of him, and they don't want him to explain. They're like, you're good. We're good.
Walks in a t-shirt and jeans, flexes his muscles, and everybody falls over.
Like, that scene is how I imagine my character Dahlia. That's how I imagine she fights. She rips, she tears. She uses people's weapons against them. It's just, like, that's inspired so much of my writing, and 6 out of 5, I would give it 100 out of 5 if I could. This is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I will treasure it forever.
Ocean.
I want to say 4.5. And the reason being is because of, while the story was good, the chemistry of the characters were great. It was amazing. Everything led up to it. It made you very connected. That 0.5 is off because of the special effects that didn't work with it, i.e. at the very end, where he opens up the sky and the sun beats down on him. There's one particular scene that just gets me. I'm like, why was he running into the sun? And you see it. The guy's like, ah! And then he just kind of dissolves. I'm like, that didn't make sense. There was something there that he could have covered himself up. Why didn't he run in there? That kind of thing. So the special effects really kind of, it tells the story, but not like it's nothing again to really, you know, come home to. So that's the reason why 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5.
Okay, so y'all are gonna hate me for this. I'm just gonna preface this right now. But I want to start this with, I fucking loved this movie. Absolutely loved it. But when it comes to rating, I'm giving it a 3.5. I didn't get as much blood and gore as I wanted. The special effects were kind of cheesy, but it hit a lot of good points. It hit like a lot of like check boxes for me. And I didn't get my fucking sequel. I will rant and rave about that until I'm blue in the face. Krisha, like you were saying, that first like massive battle scene, that's how you see your character Dahlia fighting. Just like absolutely tearing the place up. The final battle where they're marching into the camp, where they're coming into the camps, you see like the thunderstorm with the lightning and the just absolute fury. You could feel it through the screen. When I play Blaze's anger is a lot like that. There's a reason it's kept hidden. There's a reason it's kept on the DL. Like, that just absolute, I'm going to eat everything that you fucking love. But unfortunately for me, this movie does get a 3.5. As much as I want to give it more, I can't. But that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad movie. Like, would I recommend it? Fuck yeah. Hands down. Like, 100% of the time, recommend it. This is a comfort movie. This is something that takes right back. It's very much reminiscent of our original, like, Monster Mash movies. Like, yeah. I don't know. That's it. That's all I got.
But it needs more werewolves.
Yes!
That's what it...
Wolfman. I would love
He's
to...
also Saxophone Man.
You're not wrong. I would love to see this kind of movie, but Wolfman. I would love to see this kind of movie, but The Mummy. I would love to see this kind of movie, but The Swamp Thing. Like, bring back all of those classic monsters and do this.
Yeah. I do want to point out something. Now, Krisha, you were saying that this movie definitely inspired in the way that battle scene, is the way that Dahlia fights, right? I would love exactly kind of what Blaze was saying. I guarantee you, your character would not go out of that clean. I think she would be covered in blood. And that is something that I found disbelieving of Drac, because, yeah, he killed a lot of people. Where's the show? Where's the evidence that he was the one that did it? Because there was no blood on him.
It was PG-13.
That's true, but still, the idea behind it is that he killed all these people, but where's the blood, gore, and viscera?
On that note, guys, I think that's going to bring it to a wrap for this episode. Season 3, Episode 6, Dracula Untold. Season 3, Episode 7 brings the ever-classic Blade.
Get ready, motherfuckers.
We get to watch Wesley Snipes tear up the screen, and I love it. I'm here for this. So
Nothing like a little...
Pardon?
Nothing like a little Demolition Man vampire, right?
If you want to come watch the movie with us, come watch on Wednesday. Ask any of the hosts for an invite code. We do community watch parties in the Discord. I can't wait for this. I am really looking forward to this, to Blade. But for this episode of Masquerade Breach, I'm Blazewing.
I'm Captain Cosplays, otherwise known as Krisha.
Marley.
And I'm Oceanus Veritas, also known as Cam. It was a pleasure seeing you. And remember,
Don't tell the Camarilla. If you do, I'll never get my sequel.
I thought I was your sequel.
You're the good sequel.